Let's do this. Here we go. Brand new Kahoot. And the math problems I give you longer. What area of the type of instrument? What is that question? Who wrote that? What type of instrument, or what area, what type of instrument is the dose calibrator? There we go. You guys got around my bad grammar. Oh, ooh, look at that. NMT2B. Oh, Kate is number one. Sestamivir. You guys are so creative. Okay, here we go. How many stable nuclides have more protons than neutrons? Ooh, we start with a trivia. Let's see if you were listening. I should have made you name them. That's what I should have done. Ooh, yeah, the trivia ones are always the great equalizers. All right, so the answer is 2, helium-1 or helium-3 and hydrogen-1. That is just trivia. That will not be on your board exam. Let's see what happened to our leaderboard. All right, Kate, Sestamivir, Mac, and Mibby, and Nuke Skywalker. Wonder who that is. True or false? According to NRC 10 CFR Part 35, you must measure moly contamination in each generator eluate. True or false? Yes, that is true. That is true. After every eluate. All right, Kate, Sestamivir, Randall Thor. Okay. Which of the following is not a radiopharmaceutical used for Alzheimer's disease? Fluciclovine for prostate. Yes, that's the one that has that pancreas that shows up. Let's see what happened here. Ooh, that changed things a lot. Kate, Randall Thor, and Glow Getter. Oh, I like that. Jess L and Jess J. If a linearity is plotted on linear graph paper, how should the curve appear? Oh, got you on that one. So we plot it on semi-log paper, and when we put it on semi-log paper, we get a linear response. But when we plot it on linear graph paper, radioactive decay is exponential. Exponential. This should change things just a little bit. And yep, Randall Thor, Kate, Gus, Sestamivir, and Glow Getter. I like that. All right, what is the common crystal material used in gamma cameras? Oh, look at that. Wonder if we'll have any questions where we get 100% correct. All right, sodium iodide doped with thallium. That is the most common. And look at Randall Thor, 6 correct answers in a row. I think we've only had like 6 questions. Excellent job. A vial contains 275 millicuries of Tech and 6.2 mLs. You need 10 millicuries. How many mLs is that? And you'll have longer to do this. So take your time. All right, 0.2 mLs. We're going to take our 10 millicuries, multiply that by 6.2 mLs divided by 275 millicuries, and we get 0.2 mLs. Right. Ooh, look at Sestamivir. That's so creative. Okay. Next question. What adjunctive medication may be given to a patient prior to whole body scanning for thyroid cancer spread? That's thyrotropin. You're all looking for thyrogen, and thyrogen is thyroid stimulating hormone. Tropin means stimulating hormone, so thyrotropin is the answer. And that changes things a little bit. Oh, Nuke Skywalker's back in it. Sestimibri and Mibi. The 45-minute decay factor for gallium-68 is about 0.632. Oh, look at that. That is true. Some of you answer so quickly. I don't know how you did that. But what we have to do is take e to the negative 0.693 divided by 68, which is the half-life, 68 minutes, times 45, gives you 0.632. And, all right, didn't change a whole lot. Which was the first state to become an agreement state? Trivia. Well, the answer is actually Kentucky. That's probably the only thing they're first at. I was from Kentucky, so I can make jokes about Kentucky, but I love Kentucky. Kentucky was actually the first agreement state. All right, that is the great equalizer, is those trivia questions. So Mac has an answer streak of 3 in a row. Nuke Skywalker's back in the top 5. We have Kate, Glow Getter, and then we have Randall Thor. I'll have to find out who that is. All right, in what patient population would you expect osteoblastic activity to exceed osteoclastic? That is pediatrics, yes. So osteoblasts are building the bone, osteoclasts breaking them down, and pediatrics, they're building bone faster than they're breaking it down. Adults, that's equal. And then in geriatric, osteoclastic activity exceeds osteoblastic. And a little bit of change here. Randall Thor can't miss one. Kate, Nuke Skywalker, Sestimibri, and Jess L. Which image is consistent with Graves' disease? A, which is B, diffuse. That's we call that a diffuse toxic goiter. Diffuse because it's all over, toxic because it's overproducing, goiter because it's enlarged. C would be multinodular goiter. D is a toxic adenoma, sometimes called Plummer's disease, sometimes it's called the solitary autonomously functioning nodule. And then E, of course, is thyroiditis. All right, let's see what happened. Not a lot. Tracer chaser. That's funny. You guys are so creative. You're making my day. All right, what is the total dose of CCK for a patient weighing 160 pounds? right, 1.5 micrograms. We're going to convert pounds to kilograms by dividing by 2.2 and then multiply by 0.02 to give us 1.5. And, all right, Nuke Skywalker in second, chasing Randall Thor. Oh, Nuku Pookie. Oh, that's so cute. Okay. What government agency is responsible for labeling, packaging, and transporting radioactive material? Ooh, look at that. We almost got 100%. And I couldn't trick you having the NRC up there. You guys can't be tricked. You guys are on top of this. Future of nuclear medicine is secure. Ooh, Hot Stuff has a highest answer streak of 7. The Enola Gay, the plane that dropped the atomic bomb, was named by the pilot. Who was it named after? Actually named after his mother. And if you wonder why, World War II and atomic bomb stuff enters into nuclear medicine, because that is the birth of nuclear medicine. That's when they discovered fission, and fission is what makes many of our radionuclides. And so when they discovered what they called byproduct material, because it's called byproduct, sounds negative, right? Because it was like, what's all this radioactive stuff we can't do anything with? Well, some really smart people at the time like, oh, we could do something with this. We can create nuclear medicine. So that is the birth of nuclear medicine. Enola Gay was named after his mom. Okay, Randall Thor, Nuke Skywalker, Tracer Chaser, Nuki Pookie, and Glow Getter. All very creative names. True or false? A patient with renal artery stenosis will have a normal ACE inhibitor renogram. That is false. The baseline is going to be normal, not the pharmacologic one. So all 3 of those, MPI, cerebral arteries, renal arteries. And no change, but Liz is back with an answer streak of 3. Nice job. What year did the SNMMI change its name from SNM to SNMMI? That was 2012. That was more of a guess, wasn't it? It was 2012, so not too terribly long ago. And no real change, except now we have Mac in the top 5. What type of medication is used to reverse side effects experienced on a treadmill? Good old nitroglycerin. Oh, we said beta blockers. That's for dobutamine. That's dobutamine. Beta blockers are going to bring down the heart rate. And sometimes with dobutamine, the heart rate doesn't come down so easily. Nitro is when a patient's having an ischemic response on the treadmill, we're going to give them nitro. All right, that changed things. No, it didn't, because everybody missed that question. All right, true or false? According to the NRC, a therapeutic radiopharmaceutical prescribed to a patient must be administered to a patient must be plus or minus 10%. That is true. If it's diagnostic, it's 20%. Therapeutic is 10%. And what happens? Okay, Nuki Pookie, Mac, Tracer, Chaser. Bree is the highest climber. Okay, here we go. What cells in the liver are responsible for tekmeborphenin uptake in the liver? So the hepatocytes, the Kupffer cells, those are the phagocytic cells. Those are the ones that are responsible for TEC sulfur colloid uptake. And, Randall Thor, Nuki Pookie, Nuke Skywalker, Glow Getter, and Tracer Chaser. All right, next question. What label should be used for a package with a transport index of 0.09 and a surface rating of 1.8? Yes, yellow 2. Nice job. And Nuke Skywalker in second. Randall Thor is still holding strong. We need one of those trivia questions to knock that person out. I always cheer for the underdog. All right, what view is this? It's small. This is the RPO. So notice there's no hard shadow. So instantly we know it's posterior. So we can put our left and our right in. Since the right is bigger, RPO. All right, let's see what happened. Oh, not much. Kate is in the top 5. If you add 2 half-value layers of shielding, what percentage of exposure will be stopped? You add 1 half-value layer, that stops 50%. The next half-value layer stops 25 more percent, so that's 75%. And, okay, not a lot of change. Which of the following vasodilator must be administered at a certain dose rate? Is adenosine. Dipridamol is a total dose. We're going to administer it over 4 minutes, but if the patient has side effects, we can slow it down. Regadenoson is, and dobutamine, the dose rate changes, and then regadenoson is just a total dose that's administered in a few seconds. All right. Randall Thor, Nuki Pookie, Nuke Skywalker, Tracer Chaser, and Kate. In an Ultratag kit, where will you find the reducing agent? In the reaction vial. That was a hard question. I'm surprised 34 of you got that. Excellent job. All right. Oh, there's Willie D, NMT2B. So creative. All right, a lung scan is done using TEC-MAA and TEC-DTP. Which study should be done first? DTPA, yep, ventilation always should go first. And all right, not much change. Checking the integrity of the tag between Tec-99m and a ligand is an example of what type of test? Radiochemical purity. And no change. When an incident photon is completely absorbed by an atom and an interstellar electron is ejected, Good. Photoelectric effect. Nibby is on the top 5. Calculate the gallbladder ejection fraction. %, big number minus the small number divided by the big number. Right. Randall Thor, Nuki Pookie, Kate, Nuke Skywalker, and Just Jay. What is a fun fact about technetium? All technetium isotopes are radioactive. Even Tech-99 is radioactive. Okay. Kate has a flame next to her. Excellent. Jess L. Calculate the radiochemical purity of Tech-MAA. The background is 120 counts per minute. Right, that is 99%. So you'd subtract backchrome from both of these, and then you would take your Tech-MAA divided by the total counts, and it comes out to 99%. And, okay, Tracer Chaser's back in the top 5. Who is the only person to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields? That is Marie Curie, yes. Physics and chemistry. Only person. Uh-oh. Nuki Pookie is in first. Nuke Skywalker, Randall Thor, Kate, and Tracer Chaser. There is plenty of time. History of diabetes and an open sore on the left great toe. What is the most likely diagnosis if hot on all 3 phases? Osteomyelitis. Excellent. All right. We're not even halfway done. What is the minimum amount of acute whole body radiation exposure where radiation sickness will occur? Rems or 100 rem, depending on the book you're reading. Randall Thor came back in first again. 2 patients are diagnosed with Graves' disease, which will be treated with the higher dose of I-131. Actually, patient A has a smaller uptake. We need to give them more because they're not going to take up as much of the iodine. Our goal is to make them both euthyroid. This 74% uptake is going to take up 74%, so we don't have to give them as much. All right, that changes things. Nuki Pookie, Randall Thor, nice. Which is not a type of isobaric decay. Gamma emission. I tried to throw you off by putting emission in 3 of these, making you pick electron capture. But isobaric decay is positron, beta negative, and electron capture. All right, MIBI's on the board. What is the dose of texsulfur used in a gastric emptying study? Ooh, we almost got 100% on that. Love it. All right. Nuki Pookie, first place. An MAA kit has 3 million particles, 75 millicuries, and 8 ml. You drop 3 millicuries, how many particles? Ooh, nice job. This was a hard question. 120,000. We'll take our 3 millicuries times 3 million particles divided by 75 millicuries. 8 ml is irrelevant information. All right, and no change on that one. Paul Cole Scholarship was named after an SNMMITS president. When was he president? It was 1988 to 1989. He actually passed away while he was president, and that's why a scholarship was made in his name. All right, MIBI's back on the board. Which of the following can be used for interictal SPECT imaging? F18FDG. All right, Randall Thor's back in first. It'll come down to the end. We're almost halfway done. What is the first image shown? Actually, RAO, not anterior. This one is, well, maybe that is anterior. Oh, I think I have that wrong. I think I put in the wrong image. Oops, so sorry. Good thing there's no change in the leaderboard. All right, what is this? Normal sinus rhythm, very good. And Nuki Pookie goes into first. Tracer Chaser's back on the board. Halfway done. How many people took the NMTCB exam in 2025? answer was 647. And that changes things. Randall 4, Nuki Pookie. You guys just want me to say Nuki Pookie. What causes this artifact? Penetration, septal penetration, lack of attenuation, but not attenuation. All right, no change. What was the first lab the Curies worked in called? The trivia. The shed. Let's see, did that change things? Luke Skywalker's back on the board. What is the correct reading if your meter is set to times 100? So we have to use this times 100 only. We have to use this bottom scale. It's at 1.1. 1.1 times 100 is 110. And, all right, Mac is on the board. What is the target heart rate for a 75-year-old patient being stressed on the treadmill? Excellent. 123. And no change again. Which of the following cancers spread to the bone? Yes, breast cancer. All right, Luke Skywalker's back on the board. Which radiopharmaceutical is used when performing a scan for Parkinson's disease? Excellent. Ioflupane. When using these for a linearity test, what does the technologist rely on? Shielding, very good. All right, 16 people have an answer streak of 4. That is impressive. What causes this hot spot on a thyroid scan? Yes, toxic adenoma. Almost everyone had that. Not going to be a change in the leaderboard when everybody gets it right. All right, this is a study for a right-to-left cardiac shunt. What radiopharmaceutical was used? Ooh, almost everybody got that. Tech MAA. What radiopharmaceutical was used to make this image? Ooh, tech filtered sulfur colloid, not unfiltered. No change. Still time. What was the theme of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging Week in 2025? It was just last year. From Adams to Answers, Advancing Patient Care. We need to do better marketing, Sarah. We need to do better. All right, Randall Thor, Nuki Pookie. True or false? If you use a GM meter that's calibrated with cesium-137, it will underestimate the readings for technetium. It's false. It will actually overestimate, and that's okay because we want it very sensitive. Look at Kate. Kate has 10 in a row. What is true when Molly Tech reach equilibrium in a generator? There's more Molly than Tech. There's always going to be more Molly than Tech. Okay, so even at equilibrium. Now, transient equilibrium by definition says the parent or the daughter is going to have more activity than the parent. But again, we're the exception to the rule. There's always going to be more Molly than Tech. All right. And no change because everybody got it wrong. How often should you calibrate your GM meter? Annually. You do a daily check to make sure it's working, but you calibrate it annually. That changed some things. Kate and Mibby, right behind Randall Thor. What is the dose of acetazolamide used in brain perfusion imaging? One gram, 1,000 milligrams, 1 gram. And that changed. Ooh, Nuki Pookie in second. How many pixels are in a 64 by 64 matrix? Ooh, almost everybody got that. 4,096. Impressive. All right, Jess L is back with an answer streak of 3 in a row. All right, when imaging the thyroid, pinhole collimator, what happens to the size of the thyroid as the camera moves away from the patient? It's smaller as you move further away, smaller, closer, it gets bigger. It's the only collimator that does that, and no change. About 24 questions left. This is a 6-second strip. How would you describe this? That is a PAC. So the atrial contraction is the P wave. So we got a PQRST, unit of time, PQST, unit of time, PQRST, unit of time, PQRST, no unit of time. P came early. That's the atrial. If it comes early, it's premature. Premature atrial contraction. That might change things. Nuki Pookie took over first. All right, a patient is diagnosed with PE. What would have what appearance on images? Yes, mismatched. Very good. And Kate moves into second. Which radiopharmaceutical allows the calculation of ERPF? That's 9-3. All right, Jess L has the highest answer streak of 7 in a row. What is this called? That is the good old X-ray tube. All right, Randall Thorback in second, followed by Mibby. True or false, a technologist can decay correct their dose in lieu of assaying it in the dose calibrator? That is actually true. That is true. As long as you don't manipulate the dose and that dose was assayed by a radiopharmacist who is licensed. Convert 2 rems to sieverts.
Chloe.
Yes, 0.02. You guys got your conversions down. Nice. What is a normal ERPF level? (600 ml per minute). 120 goes with GFR. No change. What study is this? It is parathyroid. Excellent job. All right, we're getting close to the end. What disease does this image depict? Paget's disease, also known as osteitis deformans. Okay, Hardstick is making a comeback with 3 in a row. What coronary artery supplies blood to this wall? It's the left circumflex. You couldn't trick anyone with lateral. I figured you'd look at that and say, oh, lateral. You guys are test-wise. All right. Which of the following is not a type of probe used with the GM meter? That's the inner window. All right. No change. Still time left. What is the maximum occupational exposure for the fetus of a declared patient pregnant worker over the gestational period? Rem. Nibby is back in second. Top 3 prizes. If the biological half-life of tech-labeled radiopharmaceutical is 4 hours, what is the effective half-life? Excellent. Almost everybody got that. You guys are impressing me. All right. The world's first artificial reactor was in Chicago. What was its name? It was called the Pile. It was the Pile, and there's a monument that is in its place right now where it was located. All right. Next question. Rubidium 82 decays via positron emission. What is the daughter product? Positron emission is isobaric decay. That means that the daughter is going to have the same mass number. All right, Randall Thor moved into second. Nuki Pookie is still on top. Which method requires catheterization for a vesicoureteral reflux study? It's the direct method. And no change. Glow getter, streak of 11, nice. What is the quarterly Alera 2 level for the whole body? And 75 milligram, you guys are listening. How many U.S. states are currently NRC or non-agreement states? Is 10. That might change things. It does. Nuki Pookie, Kate, Randall, Thor, Mibby, and Nuke Skywalker is going to come down to the end. True or false? If a nucleus is neutron rich, it will have an overall neutral charge. It is false. The nucleus will always be positive. Nuki Pookie, Randall, Thor, and Mibby. These are TEC-MAA particles on a hemocytometer. What is the recommended particle size for TEC-MAA? $50 micrometers, 50 microns, 10 to 90 microns. All right, Kate moves into third. Coming down to the end here, a few questions left. What is this band of tissue called? It's called the isthmus. And no change, a few questions left. Convert 25 millicuries to megabecquerels. Yes. Oh, look at that. You guys are almost, everybody gets that correct. That is great. All right, let's see. 3 questions left. If TEC eluate has 2,500 millicuries in it, how much moly is allowed? goodness, 375, just multiply it by 0.15. Oh, it's going to come down to the end. Top three. Calculate the DPM. White 845, background 35, efficiency 86%. All right, 142 DPM, white minus background divided by efficiency. And all right, Nuki Pookie, Randall Thor, and Mibby, Kate and Glow Getter. Last one, what is this anatomical variant called? And oh, we almost ended at 100% horseshoe kidney. That is exciting. All right, let's see who our winners are. If you are on the podium, please send me an email. Mibby is number 3. Number 2, Randall 4. And number 1 is Nuki Pookie. You just want me to say Nuki Pookie over and over again. All right. Kate and Glow Getter are runners up. So those top 3, please send me an email letting me know what your name was, and I will send you your gift card. At this point, that does conclude the session. I will stick around until the last person logs off. If anybody wants to say hello, turn your camera on. It's nice to kind of put a face with the name. Or if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Sybil. This was
Thank you.
awesome. Very much appreciated.
Yeah,
Awards
good
on the
luck.
30th, so I feel
All right.
prepared.
Got this.